Hello, Shalom Aleichem. I just want to begin by saying how incredibly happy I am to be recording here in my little rabbi cave in Yerushalayim. For those of you who have been following my life, you'll know that we, the Nissels, just spent a month in America, mainly in Miami. Don't feel too sorry for us. But we were basically in exile. We wanted to come home after our nephew's wedding. This is a month ago, and Israel would not let us back in. And we stayed an extra 3 weeks. And to be honest with you, I spent a lot of time with students and friends and people that I met in South Florida, in Chicago, and other places that we were. And they all had a common theme. They came to me as a rabbi to expect me to have solutions to their unhappiness. So this is something that's crazy, that I've never been in America for this period of time, hearing again and again and again that people are unhappy, many of them for real reasons. They've gone through stuff, as we say, difficulties in their lives, challenges that are unsurmountable. And some people are just unhappy campers. They just don't like their lives. They don't like themselves. They're not happy with what's going on. And they expect that somehow, or rather, I, as a rabbi, am supposed to have the solution to what everyone's looking for. Everyone wants to be happy. That's just the way it is. Some of you know the Pharrell Williams song back in 2013 that had over 1 billion hits, and everyone's dancing that they're gonna be happy. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, there were like 2,000 imitations from all over the world of that "I Want to Be Happy" song, dancing to it. But the point is that these people, when the dancing is over, you ask them, are you truly, truly happy? And most times the answer is no. While they were dancing, they were happy. But when the dancing is over, so they're back to their miserable existences again, dealing with their issues and dealing with their problems. So, what I want to do is give one approach to finding true happiness. And this is the number one answer I give to everyone when they're saying to me, Rabbi Nissel, what can you do to help me find this beautiful thing that everyone is looking for, that feeling of being happy? And the answer, I always say, it begins with tefillah. It begins with knowing how to be a davener. So let me show you where I'm coming from. And I want to begin by quoting from my Rebbe. I have over here this is my Ali Shor from literally 35 years ago. And I have over here the opening quote of Meir Rebbe, Rosh Shlomo Wolbe Zatzal, the Ali Shor, on his Vadim, his essays on Simcha. And this is what he writes. These are the opening words. Listen carefully. Shemayim va'aretz, heaven and earth. Ish v'isha, male and female. Neshama v'guf, a soul and a body. Nigudim heim, they naturally work against each other. Lo tamid him nishar nigudim, but they don't have to remain opposites. Yesh, shemashpiyim zal ze latova, they can affect each other positively. V'yesh shemisachtim lagamri, and sometimes, obviously, like a husband and a wife, they can become truly one. B'kol hiskashrus hanigudim, every connection between things that don't naturally work together, that things that logically on their own should be going in different directions, and yet they are cooperating. That zemakimo umahuso shel simcha. That's the true place. That's the natural home for simcha. B'kol makayim shehi nimtzeis yesh hiskashrus or hisachtus. Whenever there's connection or unity between things that don't naturally jive, that's where you will find true happiness. And of course, for us in our worlds, the baseline is the kol sasain, the kol simcha, kol chasan, the kol kala that you find in a marriage. But I want to point out that not everyone has that luxury. Not everyone has that perfect marriage. Not everyone had that wisdom to work in it from day one and to make that connection special from the very first moment. but there is something else that creates that happiness, and that is a relationship with Hashem. You cannot possibly have two more opposites than the creator and the created. Now, wait a moment. I just want to add one thing, and I hope you take this the right way. Why is it that today in 2021, there seems to be so much more unhappiness than in recent years? So, if connection is what creates happiness, so social distancing is like the opposite of creating happiness. I just spent last week 48 hours traveling to get home. And everywhere I went, people were just like, stay away from me, stay away from me. People were angry. People were just like anxious. It was just very, very unpleasant. When I tried to get my wife and my daughter into the United Lounge in Newark, so the woman said, and she's actually right, you can only bring in one person. It's not like Israel where they just say, they said, oh, the rules, we must follow the rules, yeah. And only one was allowed in. So I said, okay, my wife will go in with my daughter, no problem. On the way out, I wanted to sort of pop in for 1 second into the bathrooms over there, and she screamed at me, and she was so angry. How dare you use the bathrooms when you haven't paid? And I'm looking at her, and I'm looking at her angry, angry eyes, and I see written above, United Airlines, welcome to the friendly skies. Like, hello, what has happened to this world? People have become less friendly. People have become more anxious. And I want to add another simple thing. Like, again, this is obvious. When you're looking at me, you're not really looking at me. You're looking at pixels. You're looking at literally a piece of metal or whatever these computers are made out of. And your tselem alekim, which is where that simcha comes from, that image of God inside of you, is not truly nourished. So when you have these things over here, right, you got your little phones, and you look at them, and you're FaceTiming, you're talking to people, you're doing like what I'm doing now, you're Zooming. All these things create a fake connection, which does not nourish ourselves in a healthy way to allow us to truly, truly feel that happiness. If you want to have happiness, you need connections that are real. So a husband and wife have to be literally facing each other, chavrusas, friends, looking at each other. The experience has to be real for it to be something worthwhile. And then we get to the ultimate connection, which is the connection between us and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And I always, always say this to my students: if you're angry with God, for goodness sake, don't run away from him. Work on building the connection in a way that makes sense for you. So let me show you something incredible. I have in front of me an old-fashioned Mishnah Berurah. There we go. This is based on the Gemara, the halachos of how to begin your Shemona Esrei. I always beg the busiest people in the world, mommies who have full-time job, they got 5 kids, the world is crazy. They are halachically, technically speaking, exempt from tefillah. I beg them, find yourself those 7 minutes a day for a Shemona Esrei. But don't just stop on any Shemona Esrei. Make it a moment of true connection. Now watch this. I'm going to read to you now Siman Tzadi Gimel, Halacha Beis. Here we go. Lo yama dispala el be'ema v'achna. You want to daven, you should daven with ema, with awe and humility, speaking to the King of Kings. Lo mitech schaik v'kalas reish b'dvarim b'telim v'lo mitech kas. You shouldn't be in a mode of schaik, of like giddiness, laughter, just having watched some comedy, or out of anger, you just had a fight with someone. Ella mitoich simcha. This is a crazy thing. He starts it by saying you should have awe and you should have fear. Well, obviously not fear of being afraid, but fear of greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But then it says you enter tefillah with simcha. And then the Shulchan Aruch It's based on the Torah. Gives 3 examples of how you enter tefillah with simcha. Number 1, divrei tanchumim shel Torah, through the comforting words of Torah. Number 2, smoich legulas Mitzrayim. You juxtapose it to the Geula of Mitzrayim. When do we do this? In Shachris. The last words we say before our Shemona Esrei in the morning is Ram v'Nisa, Gadol v'Neira, Mash v'Geim, Agbiya Shafalim. We talk about all the incredible things Hashem did for us when we came out of Egypt. And the third is what we do at Mincha. Smeich l'tehil l'David, say Ashrei, shekasad by Ritzein Reiv Yaseh. Hashem does everything that we want. Whatever we want, Hashem takes care of. Shem Hashem is kol avav. Hashem guards those people that truly love him. All I want to point out is that there are 3 examples over here. And all 3 are different angles of how we realize how much HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in our lives and how close he is. Most of our day, it's hard to notice HaKadosh Baruch Hu because of Hester Panim, Hashem is so hidden. A little effort before you start your Shemona Esrei. You first work on the connection. Let's go through this one by one. Torah study. So what's the definition of Torah? Torah is an instruction booklet? Correct. It's a hurrah, but Torah is also a Yiraisa. It is the light that connects us to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In the words of the Ramchal, Derech Hashem, he defined Torah as literally we're tapping in to HaKadosh Baruch Hu's essence. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us the Torah at Har Sinai. He gave us a little bit of himself. When you study Torah, what you're really doing is getting to know him. If Har Sinai is the marriage, then Torah is Hashem saying, I want you to really get to know me. And see how HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs this world. The genius, the infinite genius of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's hanhag of how he runs the world. Torah, when learned properly, gives us the joy of connecting to a being that literally runs everything with total and complete perfection. And Torah study helps us open our eyes to see that. Next, Klal Yisrael, our nation, Geula, we're coming up to Purim. Purim, Pesach, Chanukah. We see how HaKadosh Baruch Hu, at first glance, he's hidden. But when everything turns around, we see how close he was to us all along. And thirdly, and finally, these psukim in Ashrei, Shem Hashem is kol arav, Karav Hashem l'chol kairav, how HaKadosh Baruch Hu is intimately involved in our lives. Open your eyes and see what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is doing for you right now. I promise you, in the last 24 hours, if you just open your eyes, you see how close Hashem is and the hashgacha pratis, that personalized care that Hashem has for you. So this is halacha, this is not fromkeit, this is not musar. 3 examples. Seeing God in the universe, that's Torah. Seeing God and how he runs Klal Yisrael, that's Geula. And seeing HaKadosh Baruch Hu and hashgacha pratis in your own personal lives. If you do this every single day, it puts a smile on your face because you see, ba'aimek, in Pnimius, at the deepest level, there's one relationship that no one can take away from us. And it is more real than any other relationship, and that is our personalized connection to Hashem. Even our relationship with our most beloved people, our spouses, it's just a taste of that relationship that is forever and ever and ever. So today, in a world where we are drowning in fake connections, nothing can be more fake than a connection through a machine, through a phone, or through a computer, where the Tzelem Elokim is dying. It is basically shriveled up, wanting something real. But with the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, just got to take those 3 steps, and he's there for you. And at least once a day for the ladies, 3 times a day for the men. We need to work on that. But we start off with simcha, and that simcha that we have, seeing how close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is, that connection that is so real. With that, we take our 3 steps, and we talk to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we ask him for our needs. Enter the Maharal of Prague. The Maral Prague says something incredible. Maral Prague, this is Netzach, Perakav Gimel. He says, when you do this properly, at the end of your davening, when you take it 3 steps back, your simcha is 100 times greater. You know why? Because you walked those 3 steps. It's an Eved going into the Melech, a servant going to the king, recognizing that he's the king and you're the servant. You're dependent on him for everything. You go in there with your tears, crying for your needs. But when you take it 3 steps back, everything falls into place. And you realize that Eved Lamelech is Kamelech. On the deepest level, if you are so close to the king, you can ask him for whatever you want. Hashem always says yes. So you really are on that certain level like the king. Moshe Rabbeinu, the greatest Eved, was also the greatest Melech. Vayhi b'shura Melech b'sasi v'ashiam. At least on a certain level. David HaMelech is Malchus. But Moshe Rabbeinu, Loikein Avdi Moshe, but Kol Beisinem, when Hashem says to Moshe, you can do what you want. You're so close to me, I give you infinite power. When you take it 3 steps back and you walk back into the world, you realize if Hashem is that close, you are literally infinitely powerful. And that connection to the one above gives you a true, inner, deeper simcha that is incomparable. So my dear friends, we're going to be singing and dancing over Purim, laughing, but that laughter and that simcha is all a taste of the simcha of the world to come, where all the barriers to our connection to Hashem is broken down. Just like on Purim, back there in Shushan, there was Kabbalas HaTorah mi'ava, out of love, mi'avas hanes. We saw the miracles HaKadosh Baruch Hu did for us. It became clear how close he is. And we re-accepted his beautiful Torah. And all of Klal Yisrael connected, and there was a explosion of simcha. That's what it's going to be like when Mashiach finally comes. I'm begging you, every single one of you, make your davening the centerpiece of the simcha in your day. Beforehand, when you take your 3 steps back, you're mizbainen and how awesome it is that we can talk to Hashem. And when you take your 3 steps back at the end, and you realize how close Hashem is, how amazing it is to have that connection with him, Eved Kamelech, Kamelech, that we are an extension of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Malchus, and allow the simcha to explode into your life. May it be Hashem's will. That this beautiful, beautiful simcha, called the simcha of Purim, becomes indeed the taste of the true simcha that explodes when Mashiach comes and all the barriers are taken away. And the whole world becomes like a tefillah of closeness to Hashem, the tanchumim of Torah, the geula that we've experienced, and realizing how HaKadosh Baruch Hu is personally, deep, deep inside each one of our lives. Have a happy, enjoyable Simcha de Purim, when we all laugh together in the Simcha of the coming Mashiach Meher v'Yameinu. And until that moment, keep davening as the centerpiece of the Simcha inside your lives. Thank you for listening.